Darlie Routier sits in her prison cell begging to be set free and proclaiming her innocence. She tries to hide her lying eyes and holds back an evil grin as she cries. A witty and dedicated man, BryanSt.John, reminds her from outside her cell that Devon and Damon shall have justice for the evil deeds she has done to them and is here to stop the lies and misinformation being told by her misinformed supporters. Darlie has done this deed to her children and must face the penalty. Join us on Facebook at Justice for Devon and Damon Routier for the facts about this evil killer.
So we are rounding up the In Her Own Words series on the Darlie Routier Fact and Fiction, Truth from the Lies in a Darlie Routier Trial. In this series, I've been through the introduction, the who's who, the Routier statements, the arrest warrant, author Barb Davis, the myths, all the myths. Statement 10. They said they found 4 tiny spots of my boy's blood on my nightshirt. 1. Left side mixed, mine and Devon's. 2. Right side mixed, mine and Damon's. Right side, Devon, neck and back, Devon's. Now, according to experts, my blood was mixed with my boy's, which means I had to have been bleeding when I supposedly... No, it doesn't. The boy's blood could have been deposited on Darlie's t-shirt as they were stabbed. Darlie's blood could then have been deposited in that same area after she inflicted her own wounds. A mixture simply means that the 2 blood types were present. It doesn't necessarily tell us when the stains were deposited. Supporters insist that there's no way Darlie's blood would land in the same spot as the boy's unless the blood of all 3 was on the knife. I see it as not only possible, but likely. Darlie's neck was bleeding. She changed towels in that wound at least twice. Her blood on the shoulder areas deposited later could have easily mixed with the boy's blood that was already on her t-shirt. Besides, Darlie's blood, not a mixture, was found in other areas on the back of her t-shirt, so it's not surprising that some of it would mix with the boys and some of it wouldn't. The blood evidence in this case can be crazy complicated, but a great deal of it is common sense. In a nutshell, Tom Bevel identified 5 stains on Darlie's t-shirt that were definitely not from soaking through. 3 was a mixture of Devon and Darlie. TB2 was a mixture of Damon and Darlie. Both stains were on the upper right of the front shoulder of Darlie's t-shirt and could be the result of spatter cast off. What's notable about these stains is that their long up and down axis, meaning movement of the blood was from down to up. LS1 was a mixture of Damon and Darlie. LS3 was a mixture of Devon and Darlie. Both stains were on the left shoulder area of Darlie's t-shirt and were the result of spatter or cast off. LS1 had a downward trajectory. LS3's trajectory was... TB8 was the clincher. This blood spot was small but mighty. It contained only Devon's blood and was most likely cast off due to its location on the back right shoulder of Darlie's t-shirt, as well as its long axis going up. It was consistent with Darlie raising the knife up, depositing Devon's blood on the back of her shirt, and then bringing her arm down to stab again. Davis, Mr. Bevel. Devon's blood stain on the back of that shirt, TB8. Would it be necessary for Darlie Routier to be bleeding at the time that it is deposited on the back of this t-shirt? Bevel. No, sir. Davis. Would it be necessary for Darlie Routier to be bleeding at the time of that Devon's blood is deposited up here at TB3? Bevel. No, sir. Davis. LS3. If we were to assume that there is also 2 occurrences and not 1, would it be necessary for Darlie Routier to be bleeding at the time that Devon Routier's blood is deposited on that t-shirt, sir? Bevel. No, sir. Spence suggested that the blood was deposited while Darlie was leaning over Devon as Darren performed CPR on his son, but no one at the crime scene saw Darlie move from the kitchen bar. Darren himself, before he changed his story, said that Darlie was in the kitchen while he was performing CPR on Devon. Davis, looking at the stain on the back of this t-shirt, what is the maximum length that a stain of this size, TB8, could travel to be deposited on that shirt? Bevel. The stain, approximately 1 millimeter in diameter, will usually travel at a maximum of approximately 46. Davis, I want you to assume that Darren Routier has reported that the defendant was in the kitchen on the phone to 911 at the time he performed CPR on Devin. Is it possible that any stain shown in TB8, LS3, LS1, TB3, or TB2 could have been deposited on the defendant's t-shirt as a result of any CPR that Darren Routier did on Devin? Bevel. With that distance, it would not be possible. Darlie's defense contended that the stains on her t-shirt were not to be trusted because some of the blood wasn't completely dry when it was placed in evidence bag. This could be a legitimate concern, but it couldn't rise to the level in this case. The way the paramedics are trained to cut a shirt actually leaves it in one big flat piece. In the ambulance, Darlie's shirt was cut down the middle and down each sleeve from the collar area, allowing it to lay relatively flat next to her body. Because cast-off spatter blood has little volume, it dries quickly. Considering the elapsed time between the blood being deposited and her arrival at the hospital, all cast-off blood spots will be coagulated and dry. Transfer is a non-issue in this scenario. Bevel also disputed that the boy's blood could have landed in those areas of Darlie's t-shirt if she was lying in a prone position on the couch. If she were on her back, as she claimed, that area would be protected. If she had been laying on her side, the axis of the cast-off blood would be opposite direction, i.e. sideways instead of lengthwise. The burning question here is why the defense didn't call a single witness to refute Bevel's findings. Supporters insist that the prosecution hid this evidence. Some have even claimed that the state of Texas, the prosecution, doesn't have to hand anything over to the defense in discovery. Nonsense. Charles Lynch met with members of the defense team, including Bart Epstein, trace evidence analyst, and Terry Labor, DNA blood spatter expert, on 6/5, 7/16, 8/23, 11/20, 12/19, and 12/31/96. For a total of 17 hours. They had unlimited access to all the evidence, including the t-shirt, hairs, fibers, etc., for their own testing, or for them to take samples for their own testing. In fact, Lynch said they actually had first shot at the t-shirt because, in terms of the type of evidence they were evaluating, we had not gotten to that step of our evaluation. Likewise, Tom Bevel met for 4 hours with Mosty, Mulder, Harrell, and Glover in December 1996. He provided them with the personal notes he had made about his work in the case. Conclusion. Again, Darlie is twisting the facts to her advantage. She definitely did not have to be bleeding when she stabbed her boys. As a matter of fact, the totality of the evidence proves that she inflicted her own wounds after returning from the alley to dispose of the sock. The defense was keenly aware early on what Lynch and Bevel's blood evidence showed. Why Darlie's attorneys didn't call a witness to refute their findings is open to speculation. Darlie's t-shirt, oversized and longer than a regular t-shirt, is also odd in what was not found on it. Not a drop of her son's blood was on the body of her shirt, the front area that would naturally fall if she had leaned over her children to comfort and help them. Possible? Sure. Probable? No.